Yeah, stay prepared for the up and downs. Life is like a seesaw. Some say it's
What's going on, guys? Just another critic. Welcome back to the channel. We're continuing my Week 9 college football predictions with number 9 Auburn Tigers going to Death Valley to play the second-ranked LSU Tigers. Tiger on Tiger action. LSU 7-0 right now, 3-0 in conference. Auburn 6-1, 3-1 in conference. Right now, for those of you betting on the game, Auburn right now 5-1 against the spread. LSU 4-2 against the spread. The number sitting at 11.5 right now in favor of LSU. Quickly, let's jump into the statistics, and then we can jump into my own personal thoughts on how I think the game's going to play out. Right now, team stats, Auburn averaging 36 points per game, defense allowing 17 points per game. Offense is averaging 193 through the air and 239 on the ground. Defense allowing 224 through the air and 94 rush yards per game on the ground. LSU, on the other hand, averaging 50 points per game. At the same time, defense allowing 20 points per game. Offense averaging 385 through the air and 154 on the ground. Defense right now allowing 226 through the air and 93 on the ground. Obviously, the big discrepancy, man, it is LSU and what their offense is looking like right now. Averaging 385 through the air per game. That's unheard of at LSU. We all know that. That's been the big story throughout this season, what LSU's offense has become. Really, it's just a complete 180 from what we're used to seeing from them, right? A spectacular defense with a typically solid run game and a one to two punch with running backs, right? Like they've had Leonard Fournette, and that hasn't really changed. They still have a phenomenal stable of running backs. They really just, in my opinion, aren't being utilized as much as we've seen in the past. They have arguably one of the most underutilized running backs in the country, John Emery Jr., who is a true freshman, but at the same time, the kid is talented, probably one of the most talented true freshmen in the country. I think he was the number 1 running back recruit coming out of high school just a year ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. But looking at this matchup, let's take a look at Auburn. We know what they are. I still feel like they don't really have a clear identity on offense, right? They have Bo Nix as a true freshman quarterback. They've got Jatarvius Whitlow, who was their starting running back, but now he's hurt. And so they're going to have Cam Martin in there probably taking, RB1 reps. And then their big-time wide receiver and Seth Williams, who I talked about in the preseason as this dude is just an 80-20 jump ball. He's going to win majority of his 50-50 balls against his cornerbacks. And then they've got guys like Anthony Schwartz, as well as Will Hastings, on the smaller side, but very quick and very explosive. Eli Stove. And so behind Cam Martin, it's probably going to be either Sean Shivers. They do have Malik Miller, but we haven't really seen either of them consistently this season. It's just kind of been a mix-in. But with Jatarvius Whitlow out, obviously, like I said, Cam Martin is going to take that starting role. On defense, the big-time defense of Auburn, right? It's held down by their defensive front, Marlon Davidson, Truesdell, Derek Brown, Big Cat Bryant, and they got big boy Nick Cole on the outside, and then their linebackers, very young linebacker in Owen Papole, and then they've got KJ Britt, who's been having an outstanding season. In the secondary, they've got some guys, but they really haven't been outstanding, so to say. We saw that in the Florida game. They just really couldn't cover anyone. To be quite honest, man, they were poor in man-to-man coverage. They were poor in coverage in general. They couldn't stop Florida, and that's something that should worry you if you're an Auburn fan, or probably already does coming into this matchup versus LSU and what LSU has been able to do on offense, and really just no one's been able to stop that offense. They're finding success at will. and it's gonna be a bad matchup as we look at LSU and what they bring to the table. Joe Burrow, what he's been able to do in just 7 games, 2,484 yards, 29 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, just ridiculous numbers. Their running back, is it Carson Edwards? No, let's see. Clyde, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Behind him, they got Chris Curry, Tyrion Davis-Price, and then it looks like on their depth chart, it's John Emery Jr., who's 4th on the depth chart, and he hasn't really been getting very many touches, which hasn't seemed to be a problem, right? Because they're finding success on offense and scoring nearly at will versus everyone they've played up to this point. They got big-time receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. And that's never been an issue at LSU. They've always had talented guys at the skilled positions. They just haven't been able to find a real quarterback to help those guys really grow into their potential and be able to play up to their abilities. On defense, that's kind of been the trade-off with LSU. Their offense has, leaped bounds and miles, and their defense I wouldn't say has regressed, but their defense just really isn't playing up to that standard that we're typically used to seeing from an LSU defense. And they still got the same defensive coordinator who's been phenomenal in past seasons in Miranda, but right now they're just not getting the production out of them that we're used to seeing. And typically in this head-to-head, right, it's going to be a close matchup. Last year it was 22-21. The year before that, 27-23. The year before that, 18-13. So very low-scoring affairs. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. And if you're listening to this, I don't expect that you think this will be the case at all. With the way that LSU's offense has been clicking, they've just been hitting on all cylinders. No one's really been able to slow them down. If you look at their schedule, you just look at the statistics. They're averaging 50 points per game. I get it. A lot of people are going to point to the cupcakes on their schedule, right? The Northwestern States, the Vandy, the Utah State. But let's take a step back. Let's look at their top 25 opponents and how they've performed against those top 25 opponents. First, Texas, right? They dropped 45 on Texas. At the time, Texas wasn't necessarily plagued with all those injuries. And so we moved to Florida. Florida, I understand, missing 2 of their top guys on the defensive front, Jabari Zuniga and Grenard. And so at the same time, you look at that secondary who was highly touted with some of the DBs that they have, and LSU was still able to put up 42 on them. Crazy number, right? Because I don't see anyone else dropping 42 on that Florida defense. As far as how I see this game playing out, I think it's going to be a long day for that Auburn defense. I understand that they have NFL talent up front on the defensive line in that front 4 with all those big boys, but I think LSU is going to take the right approach. They're going to play very fast. They're going to do a lot of hurry up. They're going to take basically the blueprint from Oregon's game, that Oregon-Auburn game in the first half, right? We saw a lot of balls come out quick from Justin Herbert's hands. I think we're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see some hurry-up play from this LSU offense. And Auburn's inability to really cover anyone in the secondary is just going to be the death of this team in this game. It's just a terrible matchup, I think, for Auburn. We saw what happened when Tua played against this Auburn defense a season ago. They absolutely shredded that secondary. Tua went for 5 touchdowns. I think we're going to get a similar showing here. Like I said, Auburn's just not going to be able to get into that backfield to Joe Burrow quick enough because the balls are just going to be coming out of his hands too fast. LSU defensively, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Auburn all game. I do think Auburn's going to find a crease here and there, probably to Seth Williams, a couple deep balls, right, or Anthony Schwartz over the top. I don't think it's going to be a close game at all. I just don't see Bo Nix keeping up stride for stride, pace for pace, score for score with this LSU offense. LSU is just playing too good right now on offense. Defensively, they looked better versus Mississippi State, and I think they're going to come in hungry. They're playing at home in Death Valley. I think the stage is going to be too much for Bo Nix again. He'll probably end up throwing at least 2 interceptions if they don't replace him. If Auburn does have a chance to win, they're going to have to slow this game down, really control time of possession, and really they're going to have to utilize Joey Gatewood a lot more in more packages, slowing down the clock, and really allowing him to run the ball. And they're going to have to find a way to try and slow down or really keep the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands, because I don't think they're going to be able to stop LSU at all. I just don't see it. It can happen, right? Things can happen, and Auburn can just have the most amazing game in their entire season, but I just don't see it right now. Right now, my final score is LSU wins 41-17. Once again, my final score, LSU wins 41-17. I could honestly see this game getting a bit more out of hand than that. But I went conservative on the score, but I do think LSU wins it by at least 2 touchdowns. Like I said, I don't think Bo Nix is going to be able to go stride for stride, and I don't think Auburn's defense is going to be able to slow this team down. And regardless, even if LSU's defense has a bad day, Joe Burrow is just going to be able to outscore Auburn. That's just the reality of it. That's just how I view this game. If you guys think differently, let me know. If you have a different opinion, let me know. And so drop it all in the comments, whether you're on the podcast or on YouTube. With all that being said, appreciate you guys for listening. I got a few other matchups to cover. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, stay prepared for the up and downs. Life is like a seesaw. Some say it's a bitch, man. I couldn't agree.